Hello, I'm Ashish Aggarwal. I head public policy at NASSCOM. With me, I have Debjani Ghosh, our president. And we just went through the union budget and listened to the finance minister. And Debjani, I'll start by asking you, we went through the speech. So what are some of the key takeaways you think from this speech at overall level and also, let's say, from a tech perspective?
Yeah. First of all, lots to digest in the budget, lots of good things to digest in the budget. But, Ashish, when I look at it from what the overall global sentiment is, and we just came out of Davos, etc., there's this tremendously, I think there's this growing concern about global recession, slowdown. And what the world needs now is a strong commitment and focus on growth. And I think India has beautifully executed or demonstrated what focus on growth means. To me, the highlight of the budget is that from beginning to end, this is about growth. And this is about very confident growth. The second thing where I feel the budget is tremendously strategic, and I call it a very clever budget, because again, when you look at it from a macro point of view, there are three big transformational trends that are pretty much determining what the future will look like and how countries will be placed in the digital economy, what will be the competitive advantage. The digital transformation that the world is undergoing, the energy transformation that is tremendously needed, and last but not the least, the new supply chain ecosystems and supply chain resilience that a country is able to build out, and how a country performs to each of these in terms of transforming itself digitally, the digitization of countries, the energy plans, the country's ability to build out supply chain resilience is completely going to determine their competitive advantage in the future. And the reason I say this budget has been very clever is because I think what India has demonstrated is, one, tremendously strong commitment, and two, a real plan to either lead, not just grow its competitive advantage in each of these three areas, but actually to lead each of these three areas, right? So let's take one by one and let's sort of take a look at what they have done. Let's start with digital transformation, right? Some of the numbers she read out, digital payments rose 76% in transaction through UPI in 2022. 91% in value terms in 2022. 7,400 crore digital payments of rupees 126 lakh crore through UPI in 2022. I mean, these are just mind-boggling numbers,
Absolutely.
right? And it shows you how real digital India is and how it's sort of reaching out to the grassroots levels. And I think that focus on inclusive digitization stood out from the very vision of the budget. I think she called out a technology-driven and a knowledge-based economy, to the role that technology is playing in pretty much every major announcement, from DPI for agriculture, e-courts, to the role of technology in driving the skill momentum, building talent in India, to the role of technology in enabling India's green growth ambitions, right?
Absolutely.
I think it was fantastic to see how strategically technology played out across the entire budget. And I'm just seeing if I'm missing anything, but in my mind, there is no argument that India today is clearly in the lead when it comes to developing a truly inclusive digital economy at scale, where no one gets left behind. The role of DPIs, the digital, you and I have talked a lot about the digital public infrastructures. I think the role of the DPIs has been phenomenal, right, in this. They have made it happen. So the commitment she made to continue to build on DPIs, I think, is another huge commitment that will definitely increase our competitive advantage. what am I missing out? I think in addition, I would just like to focus on the digital transformation on one more thing. There was a commitment to build AI COAs.
Yes.
Not just to develop AI in India, but to me, much more strategic was the second statement, which was to ensure that AI works for India. To me, that is the most important thing, because technologies like AI can easily divide. It can easily cause bias. It's inherent that they will divide and they will cause bias. And I think our ability to ensure that we build in inclusion, security into the core design principles of how we make AI work for our country is critical. And I actually think this sets India up very, very positively to lead the transition to responsible build and use of tech. So, just so much to unpack under the theme of digital transformation. Very quickly on the other two themes, energy transition, right? I mean, I'm just reading my stuff here and there's so much, but kudos to the government for walking the talk on its commitment to green growth. I mean, from green fuel, green energy, green farming, green mobility, green buildings, green equipment and policies for efficient energy use across various economic sectors. We didn't just call these out as good things to do, but there was real commitments that were being made. The plans on battery storage, I think the other one that I really liked was a green credit program for encouraging behavioral change. I think these were all absolutely fantastic. On supply chain resilience, the third trend, I think the tremendous commitment to CapEx, right? 33% increase to 10 lakh crores. 10 lakh crores, 3.3% of GDP is just fantastic. That is what India needs to build out the physical infrastructure as it builds out the digital infrastructure, because supply chain resilience is going to be built from the ecosystems you're able to create. And I think investing in our infrastructure right now is one of the most strategic imperatives or strategic things that we can work on. But that's what's going to build the attraction for other countries to come and work with us to create those ecosystems. So, and lastly, I would say when the focus on core technologies like 5G, which are going to be so important, again builds your resilience and builds your attractiveness tremendously. So net, I think, as I said, tremendously strategic budget. It's a very, very strategic budget, focused on growth, focused on building the India advantage across all three core sectors: digital transformation, energy transformation, and supply chain resilience. So I really have to say kudos to the government on this one. But Ashish, let me turn the tables on you and say, when we think about it from our perspective, the tech sector, good, bad, ugly, what's your take?
So one thing which comes out clearly with this budget is the continuing focus on reforms, and the fact that the budget builds on the digital theme and continues to do so, some of which you mentioned. I think there are some new things which are coming out probably for the first time in a budget, where the finance minister has actually called out that consultation process will be something that will emphasize with even regulators and review of the laws in a timely manner. So that's fairly new, and I think that's something very interesting. On the startups, this has been a core focus area for NASSCOM and our industry. And I think a lot of reforms have happened in the past. One of the key things we had been talking about is really from a talent access and retention perspective, and I think that's about simplifying the ESOP regime, which is available to just about 600 odd firms. And I think that's something the economic survey also called out yesterday. So it is a bit of a disappointment in that sense to see that not come through. But having said that, I think they have taken some steps to say that at least in terms of provisions around carry forward of losses, where there is a change in shareholding. I think they have aligned that to 10 years.
That was one of our big asks,
Yeah,
right?
that was something that we had called out, and I think that's come through. And also the tax holiday framework for startups. I think they have now again extended it by 1 year, so new startups can get it. We have obviously asked them to give a little more certainty in terms of 5 years. So I think that is one kind of thing from our perspective, which we are seeing work in progress. The second big area from a NASSCOM perspective, because NASSCOM typically we don't ask for any tax breaks.
Yeah.
For us, it is really about ease of doing business.
Yeah.
And when I look at that lens, I think the focus on addressing the backlog of appeals of cases, putting capacity into that,
Yes.
I think that is going to be very useful, and that is on the lines of
that
our
was
approach.
again something we had
Yeah,
asked
so
for.
we had asked them to put a binding timeline, but they are putting effort into capacity.
Yeah.
So I think to the extent it meets the objective, I think that's very good. The fact that again on the decriminalization, the focus which finance minister reiterated, and I think that's going to be an ongoing thing from our industry perspective. I think that has been amazing. One big thing is also the focus on simplifying the KYC regime and making it risk-based. Really, and marrying the idea of Aadhaar and DigiLocker and creating that ecosystem where different ID proofs can be actually used. I think that's going to be something really useful as we build forward. And I know you mentioned 5G. So the action is actually calling out 100 labs to be created.
Yes.
So all of these announcements, I think it can sometimes take months and years to actually play out in effect. But these are what I call continuity of reforms. And obviously, we haven't gone through the full fine print yet.
Yeah.
There is a lot of fine print to look into it. One of the things which we were hearing in terms of which could be a little bit of a concern is like a lot of our industry operates out of special economic zones.
Yeah.
So now it seems there is a provision that the forex earning have to be brought back into the country within 6 months. Now that is something that we need to discuss and analyze from an industry point of view. That is it something that could be a challenge? There are other fine prints, and so there are also amendments related to GST. So typically we don't associate GST with the budget discussions, but I think on digital services, OADR taxation regime, I think they have done some changes. So we'll have to look at how that plays out. One of the things which NASSCOM had been really working on was the parity for the small sellers in terms of getting the threshold benefit under GST. So that got accepted in October. I mean not October, last year, and it is supposed to be implemented from this October. But in this bill, they have brought out the legal framework for that. So that again is something which is very positive in that sense. So pretty much, I guess some of the stuff that we'll continue to push for. But if I look at it from an ease of doing business perspective, definitely some good initiatives which the finance minister has called.
Yeah, I agree. I think the intent to strengthen ease of doing business has come out very clearly.
Yeah.
Even in our submissions, and if I remember right, Ashish, in the submission you had made, there were really no big asks as such. We had given a list of suggestions for both startups as well as the large industry that could significantly help. Small changes, but if done right, they could significantly help ease of doing business and accelerate the growth momentum the industry is already on, right? So I think she has announced over 3,000 changes, compliance changes, etc., to help ease of doing business. So let's look at the fine print. Let's see how many of our requests have actually been addressed. And if they haven't been, I think we'll continue to work with the government, because a lot of these changes can be made even outside the budget process, if I'm not wrong.
Oh, definitely.
Right?
So, just as an example, we have been talking about reform of the Information Technology Act and data governance, and one of the things we have been saying is that if industry can step away from the idea of filing same information with different regulators, it will be an ease of doing business for them. And this is something the finance minister has announced today, saying that we'll figure out a way of unified filing where the same information can be shared. Similarly, some of the other provisions around data, it's an interesting provision where saying that data embassies to be set up, allowed to be set up in the IFSC, which really will allow global companies who want to diversify risk by setting up data centers in different geographies to set it up in a safe place for them in an IFSC environment where they probably don't have to worry about domestic laws.
Yeah.
So some of these ideas I think are interesting and positive.
Yeah, completely agree. So net, I think we all believe, that as NASSCOM, we strongly believe that not only is this the decade, which is a decade that will be powered by technology, but we strongly believe that India is well poised to lead this decade. And I really think that what the budget has spelled out is the blueprint or the roadmap, which strengthens our position, strengthens our leadership, to lead, not just lead the decade, but lead the decade for inclusive growth, for scalable growth, and for resiliency. There are a few misses, but as Ashish said, we will continue to work with the government to see how we can get some of this addressed outside the budget process, because in today's world, growth counts over anything else. And some of these changes that we are suggesting under ease of doing business can significantly accelerate the pace of growth that we see. So with that, I think we are good. We're very happy with the budget. I think as an industry, as a sector, we think it's a very positive budget. Now look forward to implementation, because devil's in the details, and it all ultimately boils down to how well we can implement all these wonderful plans. So we look forward to flawless implementation. It has to be that. And we look forward to working with the government, partnering with the government and industry to making it happen.
And just before we go, I think we have a detailed note that will be coming up for the industry later in the day. And tomorrow we have a very interesting webinar with top tax experts and officials from the Ministry of Finance. So do register if you haven't already, and look forward to carrying on this discussion.
Do attend and ask your questions. Thanks.
Thank you.